Welcome back to this special edition of Inside Story from Jerusalem. Well, the creation of a Jewish state with a Jewish majority requires two processes: encouraging Jewish immigration from abroad and limiting the number of Palestinians in key areas. But Israel is facing a growing problem for several reasons. Last year, immigration to Israel was the lowest on record. Fewer than 20,000 Jews came to Israel as new residents. In addition, Palestinian birth rates are far higher than Israeli birth rates, the Palestinian population growing almost 3 times faster. The total population of Israel is about 7 million, but that includes around 1.3 million Israeli Palestinians, those who remained on their land after Israel's creation some 60 years ago. Well, the total population of the West Bank and Gaza Strip makes almost 4 million Palestinians, and estimates suggest there are around another 3 million refugees living around the world, mostly in Lebanon, Syria and Jordan, though. Well, many of these refugees demand the right to return to their homeland. That has been one of the key issues in previous peace talks and remains one of the stumbling blocks to any future talks. Well, once again, let's welcome our guests here joining us on this special edition of Inside Story. Noah Epstein, Jerusalem coordinator for the Peace Now movement. Mohammed Dahla is the Jerusalem-based lawyer specializing in human rights. And Ed Evans, a recent immigrant to Israel and also with the Institute of Counterterrorism in Tel Aviv. Thank you all for being with us here. Let's pick up on a point you were mentioning in part one, Mohammed, about the one-state solution. Now, for anything to be a solution, surely it requires the agreement of both sides. Is there anyone, let alone enough people in Israel, to actually want to agree to what you're suggesting, which would end the Jewishness of the state of Israel, as Ed was pointing out?
I mean, if you want to be frank, we're not talking about a vast majority in Israel that would love this solution or would agree with this idea. Up until now, we are talking still about even a marginal minority within the Israeli society, mainly within the Israeli academia, some of the Israeli elite, or radical left. But
so is it a viable alternative to the two-state solution? Is it a solution at all?
As I said, if we are thinking about historical reconciliation, if we are thinking about Jewish and Palestinian presence in the Holy Land for eternity, for the long run, not a solution for 20 years, then we should start from now talking about that binational reality, and from now we should think about mechanisms, arrangements, whether it's legal or constitutional or international guarantees or what have you, to try and find the way to live together a dignified life whereby two peoples can share the same land and share their fates. Up until now, although we have a binational reality, the fact is that there is, as Ed said, Jewish sovereignty over the entire land between the river and the sea, and full control of one people to the other people. In Israel, the Israeli Palestinians are controlled and are second-class citizens, and in the West Bank, they are basically occupied, and they are under strict military regime for 40 years right now, something similar to the apartheid in South Africa. Therefore, the only way out, and again, the only way out where a reconciliation, truth and reconciliation can be reached, where Jews can be sure, in my view, forever, that they can live here safely. Because if you remember, even the two-state solution did not bring, or the mechanism of the two-state solution did not bring, and in my view will never bring security to Israel, because at the end of the day we will have two states with huge disparity. One strong, almighty, or militarily and economically, and the other state is little, tiny, in the best case scenario, composed maybe of 3 cantons in the West Bank and separated from Jerusalem.
Right, that's an interesting point, and I can see you want to disagree again, Noah, so I'm going to bring you in. Doesn't he have a point, really, when he says that in terms of dividing the people and the land, it's too interconnected, isn't it, to really divide?
The situation today hasn't seen the implementation of the two-state solution idea. It's true that it's been 15 years since Oslo, but the fact is that even right after Oslo, the facts on the ground went against the implementation of the two-state solution. Israel continued to build settlements, Palestinians continued with more and more terror, and the situation was just becoming more and more the opposite direction of
so we've never really given the two-state solution a real chance.
That's the first point. Second of all, I would like to explain the logic behind the two-state solution. And again, we're not talking about utopia solutions and the best just solution. We're talking what's realistic, what's practical, what's the best solution considering the situation. And Israel has to be a Jewish democratic state, and I want to explain why. First of all, the Jewish people, like any other people in the world, has a right to national self-determination. This is the world we live in, the world of nation states, and there's no reason why the Jewish people has to be treated differently. In the same breath, I want to say that the Palestinians have a right to self-determination, which is why I, as an Israeli Jew, am trying to fight against the occupation and to help them get their nation state side by side with my nation state.
Do they need to be uprooted from their homes? Does there need to be what some Palestinians allege is the case of electronic ethnic cleansing in order to make this two-state solution work, that you've always got to try and maintain a Jewish majority in one state? That's a very difficult thing.
That's a very important point. I'll make it short. First of all, by no means are any crazy ideas about transfers and taking away citizenship. Definitely not. Being a Jewish state does not mean being complete, having only Jewish citizens in it. Every nation state has minorities in it. We see this in Europe, we see this all around the world.
But they won't be minorities, sorry to interrupt you, they won't be minorities if the refugees are allowed to return, will they? Perhaps the Jewish population might be.
Refugees should have the right to return to Palestine, which will be independent next to Israel along the Green Line, again, give or take, depending on negotiations. And the Jews will have the right to return to their homeland, i.e. Israel. It's a compromise. Obviously, we'd love to have the whole piece of land, and so would the Palestinians. But the international community has granted the Jewish people the right to have their state. This was in '47 with the UN resolution. Israel's mandate, when it was established, was to be a home for the Jewish people. And this has to, this is internationally supported.
I want to quickly try and get a word in. I know Mohammed Zieg is speaking. I want to get a word in for Ed. Do you believe, you said that you thought the two-state solution could be an interim solution. So you would agree with what? Israel making some of the compromises that Noah is talking about and that assumedly President Bush is pushing Ehud Olmert for at this point in time, including in the very sensitive area of Jerusalem where we're now sitting?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel very sorry for Noah and Shalom Achshav because they've campaigned very successfully, where we have a leader in Israel today who talked about Jerusalem being indivisible and spoke about the West Bank settlements and large parts of them permanently being in Israeli hands. They've done very good work moving the goalpost towards the two-state solution, and I think most of the Israeli public have now accepted the two-state solution. And all of a sudden, because the conflict still exists, the goalposts have been moved on the Palestinian side. So where it used to be occupation, it's now called apartheid, and where the two-state solution is now being rejected in favor of a one-state solution, which is, in most Jewish eyes, war by other means. It's another denial of Israel's right to exist.
All right, I'll allow you. We've just got a minute to go or so. Mohammed, I can see you shaking your head in disagreement there.
You know, I don't want to say that Noah is naive when she talks about, the reality and that this is the most practical solution. I don't know where Noah came now to this interview. I mean, if you come from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, the main highway, the second main highway in Israel between the main two cities in Israel is built and constructed in the West Bank. I mean, it's all the transportation that Israel is still building right now when George Bush is in the country. All the main transportation and roads in the West Bank are being built right now. Who is talking about really giving the Palestinian a sovereign, independent, real state? What they are talking about, in the best case scenario, is cantons with transportational continuity, maybe moving from one part to another with buses or whatever it is, tunnels and so on. But that's not a viable state. That's not what 3 million Palestinians are dreaming of. They are dreaming of a dignified life, not passing through checkpoints, not passing through this horrifying wall to come to East Jerusalem and being able to pray in the mosques and churches in East Jerusalem.
Sorry to interrupt, Noah was arguing that's simply evidence of the two-state solution never being given a real chance. Very quickly, briefly, your rebuttal to that.
I mean, we have tried for 20 years at least right now, the peace movement in Israel, even for more than that. The other solution or the other vision that I'm advocating have not been tried even for 1 year. I told Noah, and I'm telling you, if 10% of the effort that has been put in two-state solution, internationally and locally, is being put in the one-state vision, I think we would have solved it 10 years ago.
Right, we'll have to end the discussion there and thank our guests, Mohammed Dahla, Ed Evans and Noah Epstein. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for joining us on this special edition of Inside Story from here in Jerusalem. No doubt the two-state solution and one-state solution will be something that will continue to be discussed for a while.